Sometimes the best thing you can say, we finally get to use the title WurstWorld for our reviews. Here on V'ger Please, a heinous trip at Warp 5. My name is Joseph.
I'm your co-host, Peter.
Peter, what episode of Star Trek did we watch this week?
We got on to episode 2 of season 4, Stormfront Part 2, first aired 15th of October 2004. Written by Manny Coto, directed by David Stryden.
Peter, I like this one a lot less than the first installment because I felt like it was just sloppy trying to just get to the end and wrap this shit up to a point where it became really kind of slipshod.
To a point where even seeing them just trying to close the book on it and me wanting them to close the book on it, it still felt like it was just taking way too long, pacing issues, and they're going to save the day, right?
Right.
This whole thing should have been one episode long. It should have been a fun blip. Oh, actually, no, this is part 3, man, because fucking technically this all started back at the end of season 3. It was only, 2 minutes worth of footage or whatever. But I didn't like the first installment. I certainly didn't like this. And if I was giving people a list of Star Trek Enterprise episodes to watch, 1 and 2 from season 4 would definitely be off that list.
I remember watching these, and then when I rewatched season 3 and 4 after I initially watched it maybe 10 years ago or something like that, I remember skipping these because I remember those don't matter. Literally you just skip over them and go to the 3rd episode of season 4 and then you missed nothing.
Well, what's kind of fucking me up on this is I'm looking at the memory alpha. It is the arc of Stormfront 2 of 2, Xindi Crisis 27 of 28. I don't know what left there is really to talk about Xindi. Arc, Temporal Cold War, 13 of 13, which is fortuitous because today is Friday the 13th, by the way. So congratulations. Happy Friday the 13th. What a goofy off note to wrap that whole... do they really not pick up Suliban or anything else ever again?
They wanted this shit over with. That is... I liked the first part of this because they took some time. You're like, oh, what is the situation they're in? The Nazis have invaded America. The time is fucky. There's plenty of things to play with there that are interesting and fun. I liked the Goomba, resistance fighters who are mobsters. That's good. That's fine. Everybody was frustrated by the fact that we got another stupid space problem to deal with before we get home. This one, it started to show the whole reason they're doing this is because Manny Coto wanted to never speak of the Temporal Cold War for the rest of this run. He wanted to be fucking done with this. So how do you get done with it, right? It's this hanging Chad from the prior seasons. It's been the overplot of your first 3 seasons. We're going to send them back in time, and there's going to be another antagonist. But it's not going to be the antagonist you've seen before. It's a super time antagonist. And we're going to spend all of this runtime setting up the plot while also having to explain to you, the audience, why you should care about this guy who's apparently been involved in this 19-part plot who you've never fucking seen before. But he's the ultimate time bad guy.
Yeah, that's Harry's Canadian villain.
Yeah, and then once we've beaten the ultimate time bad guy, Time Zuck's just gonna fuck off forever, and you're never gonna hear about this again. Please stop asking me.
Why introduce... what are they called? The Vogue?
Vosk is the name of the head guy.
The Nephilim or something?
Yeah. Nakul.
Why introduce these guys at all, other than to shock... and try and jolt Paramount into giving them a 4th season at the end of season 3. You could have just put fucking Suliban in there. You could have had...
You could have had one of the sphere builders. Like some sphere builders that mastered being able to be in the real world, but they didn't figure out how to sync themselves in time correctly, and they stranded themselves in 1944.
Maybe they started grooming the Nazis the same way that they were grooming the fucking Xindi. You could have had Suliban, who can just shape change and, shit like that. That's how they infiltrated the Nazis and juiced them up with super whatever. Instead, you prayed out a whole new guy. So if the goal of this story arc by Manny Koto was to lay the Temporal Cold War to rest, I think he did a shitty job with it. I think it was ill-defined. I don't think you ever got any real answers. At some point, Silic or Daniels or Vosk, whatever the fuck his name was, really need to lay stuff out and paint the full picture of what the Temporal Cold War is. Because Daniels had never really been for, well, there's different agents acting, there's three factions. There's whatever the fuck Daniels is, Federation. There's Shadow Man, which, what a fucking dry hump that was. And I'm going to ask you here in a minute who the fuck that was supposed to be, because I know you know.
Yeah.
There's a Space Nosferatu, Vosk and his Necro thugs. Whatever the fuck they are. Who else is in there? There's some like fucking...
the Sphere Builders were a factor.
They made themselves a factor, but they were a late addition because they caught Daniels completely flat-footed.
Correct.
Did we get some fucking Mass Effect dudes in there? I could have gone for some talking jellyfish, or God, who are the guys that talked monotone? The elephant people.
Oh, the Elcar.
Elcar, I love Elcar.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get real drunk and talk like Elcar, and I think it's very funny.
The ones that have to describe their emotional state when they're speaking.
I love it.
They're great.
EA, BioWare, back when they were able to put in an honest day's work. But if this is supposed to be the end of that, I thought it was shitty. And then, you wrap it all up at the end with some quantum leap ending where fucking Sam Beckett's talking to God as Microsoft Encarta screensaver goes behind him.
Shit is so... There is one cool shot in this entire episode. It is cool to watch the NX-01 fight against a bunch of souped up Stukas with plasma cannons over the New York skyline, like shooting them with phasers. For 4 seconds, the show is cool, and then it stops being cool. Anyway, it starts with... Actually, I kind of like this segment, too. It's a newsreel segment to show you, like, the alt history of where they're at, which is, it's 1944. Germany has invaded the eastern seaboard. They control, basically, everything from, like, North Carolina north through Maine, stopping west in the middle of Ohio. And...
Shout out Ohio.
Yeah, actually, like, Ohio gets shouted out a lot in this episode as, like, where all the battles are taking place. Columbus specifically. Your home is apparently war-torn.
Why can't we get Bloomington, Indiana there as they erase Catherine Janeway from the future? You could have had
it's winter. They're not ready to drive in that kind of environment.
You could have had a spillover event where they cross paths with 1149 somehow.
Somehow.
Set the bookstore on fire. Well, hold on a sec here. Oh, damn, no. Carbon Creek was in the 60s, wasn't it?
That's correct. Yeah, nothing's quite lining up.
Make all of it just line up perfectly. Make Carbon Creek like the Hellmouth Nexus, what was it, Sunnydale in Buffy?
Yes.
Where just everything happens at Carbon Creek the same year. Picard's in there, Odo, fucking John Archer, they're all just roaming around. That's the place to be. Yeah, so this newsreel thing, whatever. Listen, man, you get into this alt history on a low special effects budget, dudes in fascist clothing. Command and Conquer Red Alert did all of it better. And I know I keep making the joke, but it's impossible to shake the similarity between Command and Conquer Red Alert cutscenes and like the scenes between the Nazi general and Vosk with like that ugly red White House wallpaper.
Oh yeah, the White House. It's like this is not a good representation of what every single human being knows the White House to look like, guys.
Their set for the White House looks like I was in a youth theater that looked like a set piece for the Von Trapp house in The Sound of Music.
I said it looked like it looked like Appomattox. It looked like General Lee and General Grant were about to have a conversation in there. Like, what are you doing?
So they get through the newsreel just showing how bad things are for everybody involved and how radically timeline has diverged. Was there a lot of alternate history stuff back in 2004 yet?
No, I don't think that dam had quite broken yet. I don't recall.
Was this hailed as like, being visionary and really cool and stuff people hadn't done yet, or did they realize this was low quality shit even back then?
I can't say. Again, I didn't watch this contemporaneously, so I'm uncertain. But
we get through the newsreel, we dip back into that well of bad CGI to really get your money's worth of the fucking tanks in front of the White House. I mean, made in Microsoft Paint.
The lack of budget has been showing from the start, and we get more discussion between the unnamed Wehrmacht general, who is the Vosk's main point of contact, where apparently there's some kind of squadron that has been prepared on behalf of the Nazis that has some kind of elevated technology, and the general wants access to that to deal with the Americans who are about to counterattack, and Vosk is pushing back. There starts to be threats, and Vosk starts making really big threats of like, I'm a master of time and space. I can literally erase your existence. Please go fuck yourself. Which is kind of hard to beat, right? Like when you're going back and forth and you're like, I can do this, I can do this. I can delete you from existence. Like, oh, okay, well, can't beat that.
That's how sloppy this arc is. The fact that this dude, who gets a lot of scenes between this and the previous episode, and he is just German general. They don't give this dude a name. It's played by Christopher Neame, who I see has one other Star Trek role. This dude refuses to put on a Starfleet uniform. Guess who this guy is?
Looking at his picture, got to be an alien bad guy of some kind.
Mm-hmm. What race?
Cardassian?
Wrong. He is a Viking named Unferth that is the Doctor's buddy in Beowulf.
Wow. God, that was a long time ago. Oh, I remember that episode like it was yesterday, though.
Yeah.
That was a special episode.
Yeah, I did some
Voyager.
work for Star Trek. Oh, really? What did you play? I was a Nazi general and also a dwarf.
God, those
dwarven fighter.
LA community theater actors in that Beowulf episode. I'll never forget them. They were so having a good time.
Yeah, that was a real special episode because a lot of people lost their souls when they got sucked into the Hollow Matrix on that one. So the dynamic between Vosk and unnamed Nazi general, it's interesting. Two baddies that both have contempt for each other. The necro thugs have given the Nazis just enough technology to basically get them addicted, give them some big wins, but they've been holding out on the good stuff. The aliens have been requesting huge amounts of resources to build super weapons. In fact, they're trying to build a time device to get home. And this Nazi general kind of realizes that they're getting jerked around. We'll later find out that in reality, the necro thugs detest the humans, the Nazis. They have strong distrust and highly suspect that if they were to turn over the full capacity of weapons that they could be hooking them up with, they would be turned on them. And, it's a good bad guy game of cloak and dagger there.
Back on Enterprise, Archer apparently decided to bring his new friend, Alicia Travers, the resistance lady that was his nurse after he got banged up, to some random dead crewman's quarters to have a conversation about how they've been dealing with the Xindi for last season, and they're all kind of beat up and tired.
She's the same age. Yeah, 26. How did she die? She got sucked into space and probably her eyeballs ripped out. I don't know if you saw Event Horizon, but it's pretty gruesome. Didn't we just do this with North Star?
I mean, I understand playing it a little differently here because the idea is Alicia goes for this very quickly and is like on board with, okay, you're spacemen from the future, you got ray guns. This isn't all that absurd to me. I've literally seen an alien down on Earth like helping the Nazis. It certainly explains why they have capacity that we couldn't understand. Like, okay, I'm putting the pieces together, and you're I get it plays a little different than North Star, which is more like when like Picard was trying to like
Well,
explain
that's what I'm getting
the
to
Bronze Age
is
Vulcans.
how often did Kirk drag humans from Earth's past up to a external window so they could gaze upon the blue marble?
Once, at least once.
Well, Picard's got him beaten. I would say with First Contact, like he really owns it. So I'm going to hereby dub this the Picard maneuver, which is bringing the primitives aboard and showing them space and telling them how it is.
Yeah. Picard was definitely the best at that maneuver. I must agree. He managed it.
But this is what, third time Archer's done it now.
So we've got her. We've got North
North
Star, who
Star.
was the third Yennefer of the Olive Garden.
Did she
No,
get to
she didn't go to
above?
the ship though. She
They
knew.
did bring up the what was that, Johnstown? What was Terra?
Oh, the Terra Nova, the
Yeah.
Novans. Yeah. Okay, the Novans. They kind of work. So this whole conversation is kind of pointless. It just serves as a sort of recap of like Enterprise has been through some shit. There's war in the future, and this is all just to show that Alicia Travers is just the most forward-thinking black lady from the 40s you've ever seen.
Move over, Strange New Worlds Uhura.
I feel like this is really just she's a star on another show on the UPN, and they're just giving her as much time as possible, and it's very boring.
They get back down to the surface. I've got like almost no notes on this.
Yeah, we're gonna steam through this. This wasn't very good.
I will say that Vosk, who is portrayed by whom?
Jack Guethny.
What else has this dude done? That's it, just Vosk. Hell of a voice on him. I think this guy brings a nice refinement to the character. He's very clinical.
Yeah.
And unwavering and just flat emotion. I like. You haven't really seen anything quite like this since the Vulcans. And I think maybe that's something fun they could have done was put him into a closer conflict with T'Pol. Maybe give these guys some logic vibes and really have given her a good enemy that she had to outthink or something. Because T'Pol is completely fucking worthless through both of these episodes at this point. I don't know. And it's interesting too, because we're into season 4 and she's basically been completely sidelined. No mention of her, well, barely any mention of her Trillium D addiction, her newfound emotions that should still be wreaking havoc.
I mean, that's all coming. Don't worry. Like, we're gonna have a lot of focus on all of those things. So
that's in the later good episodes. I'm talking about the 2-episode sand trap of suck that we've been stuck in here. And that's, I guess, if there's anything redeeming, even though we just shit on like introducing these guys as a new alien race, the fact they realistically only exist for 2 episodes, these would have been cool long-term baddies, or give me at least 5 episodes or something. She would have been a great foil. I'm sorry, T'Pol would have been a good adversary of this dude. And then there's the other treat of this episode, which is Silic, right? So anything good I can say about these 2 episodes is entirely wrapped up in the quality of aliens that they give you on screen.
Vosk is trying to get his machine to work. One of his subordinates let him know that these 2 guys who captured, who we know is Travis and Trip, are not temporal agents because their technology is too primitive to have been from a time when time travel is possible. And Vosk has clearly got some kind of plan cooking about how he can use this circumstance. So he tells his subordinate, "Hey, get him out of torture chamber and patch him up. Have the doctor come by. I've got an idea." And sure enough, they do that. They dump the two of them off in a little concrete room to await medical attention. And that is when Tucker, as he's regaining consciousness, staring at the ceiling, has the most unfortunate thing to see, which is that Silic is coming in for a hug. He's in Predator cloak mode, and he's going to drop down. He's going to give you a big old smoochy smooch.
What is the point? Last episode, Silic attacks Trip, attempts to force him into the shuttle pod at gunpoint, saying, just get in there, we're going to go down to the surface. Presumably, where Silic's going to say, hey, listen, we need to work together. Here's my plan to take down Vosk and the Necro Thugs. And instead, Trip fights him a little bit. He gets stunned, knocked out, but Silic saves his life and takes him out of the airlock so he doesn't just die, right?
Correct.
Here, you've got these guys tied up, stuck, whatever, captive audience. You could have that conversation, hey, we need to work together. And instead, he just knocks Trip out again to take his place and leave Trip potentially in harm's way. I don't know. It doesn't jive.
I'm about to tell you who the Shadow Man is, because it's going to finally put all of this together for you. Ready?
Okay.
This is who officially, had they been able to explore it, would have been the Shadow Man that Silic works for. It's a future version of Archer. Future version of Archer.
Ventured that guess.
You did. You straight guessed it. So
I'm patting myself on the back for anybody.
You should be. You
listening.
straight guessed it right away. And that, I think, explains Silic's actions. Even up to this point and in this episode, he's gone out of his way to protect Enterprise's existence and preserve the lives of not only Archer himself, but Archer's friends. It's probably because he was told to.
It also would fit well with why Silic is so smugly familiar and cocky, like, you're my boss, but you don't know you're gonna be a boss.
Hi, John.
Which huge points off on this episode that I don't get a single hi, John. Archer as the Shadow Man, kind of whack, but everything that they have done up to this point, I agree, fits that concept very well. I thought you were going to say Trip for a second.
No, and I think that it worked. I think it could have worked because Archer is clearly very bitter about the fact he got used in this conflict. And that's evident in his last conversation with Daniels. And like an idea where he has a face-heel turn where he becomes a player within the Temporal Cold War could have really worked. But clearly they just didn't want to fucking deal with this plot line anymore. They didn't want to develop it, so they just stopped it. And
here's how so what was the Suluban's real goal? Should we finish talking about the episode and then we can talk about the Temporal Cold War as a whole?
Let's talk about the Temporal Cold War now, because it's the only thing worth talking about. Because this is the end of the plot line. This is a slapdash story designed to get you to an end as quickly as possible, even if it doesn't make sense. So, yeah, let's crack this open now.
So again, you've got the Necro Thugs, which feel like they were invented for season 4 just to make season 4 happen as a zany cliffhanger.
Correct.
You've got the Sphere Builders who were late. A Challenger has appeared late. You got Humanity / the Federation. You've got the Suluban. So what do we ever really see the Suluban trying to do in terms of accomplishing the Shadow Mans? They were dispatched to kill Tiny, right?
They were. The last time Shadow Man was involved in the story at all was to tell Archer what happened to Earth. Remember, that's how it got the information, was the Xindi did it they got help from the future.
Which again, super jives.
Yeah, with it being Archer, right?
So what's the story real quick on them knowing? So is that something you read on a Wikipedia, or where did this info come from?
Berman and Braga. Like they
just
like,
said in the beginning
was the plan. Yeah.
We're going to tell the story about Star Trek in the first Enterprise. We're going to saddle it with this bullshit temporal Cold War, and it's going to be Archer realistically working against himself. So Archer is representing the current Starfleet moving forward. Shadow Archer wants to put Earth into direct conflict with the Klingon Empire earlier than it does.
So their intention was that as the Cold War plot played out, it would have. I think their main idea was they were going to kill Trip, and the Trip was going to die as a consequence of the temporal Cold War. Was going to embitter Archer in such a way that he chose to go back and manipulate events so that he'd have a better outcome from him and his crew than what happened. So a very like Admiral Janeway type of circumstance where it's like, fuck this, I don't like how this worked. And
but who would have been acting against him? Because if the only real actors are humanity and the Suliban, I mean, time travel is always stupid, but this is especially stupid.
I think the idea that he's trying to conceal his involvement because he's just trying to manipulate the small things rather than try and manipulate the war as a whole was the idea. But again, like none of this ever got fully developed because they dumped it to do the Xindi in season 3, left it fallow. There was nothing left, and they came into season 4 like, we just got to get rid of this. And
who do you think said we got to get rid of this? Do you think it was Braga and Berman realizing the error of their way? Do you think it was Manny? Are they even really involved with the show at this point?
Gosh, I don't know. I wish Manikoto was alive to ask. I would love to know what he would say to that.
Did they just vacate the office and they're like, man, fuck, I need a break. Enough Star Trek. And Manikoto's like, all right, into the fire with you. Or again, did they just realize, hey, look, that Xindi thing really worked out well. Maybe we need to get the fuck away from this temporal shit after all. Let me.
Oh, there it is.
Make Shadow Archer instead Mirror Archer, and tired of goody two shoes dimension Earth always interfering in the Terran Empire's affairs. He has found a way to cross over dimensions, go back in time, or use the fucking Suliban as his agents and say, you know what? Derail this fucking bunch of space hippies so they're as bloodthirsty and ready for war as we are, and we'll unite as a even bigger Terran Empire and conquer the multiverse.
I mean, they do ultimately get to do mirror universe stories in this season. What they come up with,
as cool as what I just said.
They're cooler.
We'll see.
They're cooler. They're really cool. They're perfect, actually. Let's go back to things that aren't perfect. And this is this episode, right? Let's just roll through this.
So Silik's the best part.
Yeah.
He gets up there. No. Vosk, who is real tired of the Nazi bullshit, knows now there is a spaceship full of slightly better technology than what the 1940s Earth has to offer. Fixes up Trip and Mayweather, says, hey, Archer, I'm calling you from space because you're the only spaceship in outer space, and I want to be friends. You got shit I want. Also, I've got plasma cannons that can really fuck you up good. So why don't we be buddies, and you come down to neutral territory, and we're going to have a talk, and you're going to see I'm a man of my word, and maybe we can be friends or allies, which Archer indulges. They go down. He's got some fucking Makos with him, ready to fucking tear shit up. Something that kind of haunts me through this episode is just sloppy, is that Vosk says a lot of raw-ass anti-Nazi things, and he is always surrounded by Nazi henchmen, humans.
Yes.
That just may as well be cardboard cutouts.
They seem not to perceive the world around them except when they have to point their MP40 at something.
Like, Vosk running his fucking mouth at the unnamed Nazi general, and like the guards in the room just not looking like, oh shit, he just told General No Name off. Or here, where Vosk meets with Archer and it's like, here's your dudes. And they're like, oh, Captain, we didn't know you were alive. And he's like, all right, you're going back up to the ship. Vosk's like, I hate the Nazis. I don't want to work with them anymore. We could do way better. I want to defect and work with you. And like all the Nazis are standing there like,
there's people getting beamed out right in front of them. Like, you would think they'd go, oh, scheisse. Like, they'd just be fucking freaking out.
I get that, like, hey, we work with aliens that are developing rays, like, that they've got a higher threshold for, like, okay, well, that was a weird day at work, but, like, the dude you're assigned to protect just consistently bad-mouthing your entire fascist regime. These other guys... These dudes, like, the Nazis need to either be... There needed to be a scene where, like, they've been lobotomized, or they are robots, or they're just other necro thugs in, like, subordinate outfits or whatever.
But Vosk, and there's never an explanation for why Vosk is like, why the Nazis, right? There's a quick thing where Reed, like, tries to piece together the particular alternate history that's, like, pretty basic, but there isn't actually a satisfactory conclusion as to, like, why Vosk is, like, backing the Nazis, except they're the bad guys, so why not? Just make it easy. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so I've gone back in time. I don't know if Vosk picked this exact moment or if they got stuck here, right?
Correct.
All right, we got to make allies. On one hand, we've got this, multinational whatever effort and whatever. There's America, and then you've got the Nazis, who are like super pure blood fanatic, hate anything that is not outside of a certain subspect, racist as hell. I think we could convince them to get behind non-humans. Like, seems like a crazy stretch.
Yeah, like if you're playing the odds, you'd go to America in the circumstance and be like, hey guys, do you want some super weapons to blow up the Nazis with? Because you're like in a desperate situation and you wouldn't say no to anything. And also you're already a multicultural nation. So like what harm is a bunch of aliens?
Way more resources at your disposal, apparently. Like, stupid. They're evil Nazis for the sake of putting aliens in Nazi outfits. Yeah, man, like subvert expectations. Make these guys Canadian. Put them in Mountie uniforms. Evil Mounties. That can be the fucking name of this episode. Evil Mounties.
No, this is going to be WurstWorld Part 2. I'm just saying, we it's our one. I told you we'd have a shot to use that. I'm taking it. They eventually go back up to the ship. Neat moment because Phlox clearly shows Archer a pad that says, yo, hey, Trip is totally Silic and not Trip. And they start playing this game where, like, Phlox goes over to the pad and clearly calls the Makos to come
hello, police.
Shoot this guy.
So, there's putty boys. There's putty boys in my sickbay. I want to jump back real quick. The meeting between Archer and Vosk. Vosk does what Silic did effectively, which is make Daniels seem like a bad guy.
Right.
I believe that time travel technology is no different than your warp drive, and that the temporal authority that Daniels works for, which is still unnamed, they're the fascists. They impose their will. They have an agenda. They are not good guys or clean. They're fucking with shit to suit their own ends. And then Archer's like, so are you? He's like, yeah, but I'm not hiding it. And I'm not looking to fuck with your stuff. I got dragged into this. These other dudes are trying to fuck with my shit. I'm trying to defend myself. I think it's one of the better jobs in rationalizing a super bad baddie with, like, all right, information. This dude has a branch to stand on.
He's got like an ideology that, at least, I don't want to say it has merit. It has substance.
So, Silic's in the past done the same thing, which is cast the shadow of doubt. Like, is Daniels actually the good guy? Look at me. I'm saving your ship from where it was going to blow up in that ion cloud. I wonder if on a long enough timeline had Trek been able to go longer on the Temporal Cold War without having to throw it away, and they got more seasons, like if there would have been a face heel turn and find out that Daniels does represent it. I mean, certainly that black fucking Cenobite costume he wears looks evil.
It would
It might not have
explain
a
why Archer
swastika.
involves himself too, right? Like if he starts to believe that maybe maybe they're not the black hats, but maybe there does need to be a regulating force that tries to prevent the temporal agents from doing whatever they want. Maybe it should be him because he knows, like there's an avenue here you could have developed if you weren't trying to speed run to an ending. Unfortunately, that's what they're doing.
Right. So, anyways, that's Vosk's sales pitch. He's like, and I like his negotiating. Go back up to your ship, reconnect with your crew member, think about my deal, and let's talk up. Like, this dude's not a bad businessman, right?
Yeah, he can't force it out of them, and he very logically doesn't try that at first. He tries to appeal to their sense of self-preservation.
Meanwhile, Phlox is called 911.
Yes. They called the cops. Silic does putty boy away from Archer when he puts him in a headlock. Boy, those putty boy effects got worse. And he runs out into the hallway only to be immediately hit with lots of gunfire from two Makos. And sure enough, transforms back into Silic as soon as he hits the ground. Probably the only time he ever gets jumped. Really, like actually just jumped. He's been beaten, but like two rando Makos just blast him.
Well, listen, after all the shit they went through with the Zindi, these guys are due for a hallway victory. They've taken a lot of hard losses in these hallways. It's about time they get a solid win gunning someone down in the back.
And that is actually a fun thing that comes up here in the next scene because Silic's in the brig. Archer's like, I'm not fucking playing with this game anymore with this fucking fool. Where's my guy? Where is he? Well, I'm not going to tell you. All right, well, let me come in here and let me tell you what you're doing.
Let me show you how we do things in the Delphic Expanse.
And
Choke slams him into the wall.
Yeah, after walking through what his plot was to like get technology for the Shadow Man so he can like do more than project into the past, blah blah blah. Still doesn't want to help. He just grabs him by the neck and throws him against the bulkhead and be like, I'll fucking beat you. It's like, oh, I guess the whole Zindi thing might have changed you a touch. And he's like, yep, and not for the better.
The jump to conclusion mat work that Archer does is ridiculous.
It's like, so much so fast. It's like he has cheat codes. Like, how could you possibly
you're here
know
to
this?
get a magic portal so your boss can come back here physically? Like, what? I'm just like, what? Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense, but did I miss an episode where we cover these clues? Was there some part of the previously on Enterprise I like zoned out through? Back with the sick bay scene real quick. Phlox is calling the cops. Archer's like, well, tell me what you saw. Oh, we were in a complex and this and that. Oh, well, we've noticed that, true to form, we've stolen from Star Wars, and this is kind of the Endor Death Star situation here, where there's a shield protecting the factory from transporters and anything else, because why would they set this stuff up? Like, are they expecting starships to arrive from the future? Kind of weird, whatever, but that's our MacGuffin. And then, like, Archer knows it's Silic, but Silic/Trip just, like, jumps Archer out of nowhere. Like, he's got telepathy and knows that Archer knows that he knows. There's no forecasting as to why that exchange happened the way it did.
I feel like they tried to like do the blocking in a way that suggested they gave it away through their body language, but it's a stretch, right? It's a stretch. He just seems to. They all seem to figure it out at the same time, so they can have the fight scene.
Who did I say this was? Striaton? It seems like nobody cared in this episode. They knew it was going to be a bad episode, and they're just fucking rushing.
Fucking getting it over with, yeah.
So yeah, Archer's got him down in the the brig. He does this typical Archer thing, going in there with the dangerous, genetically enhanced assassin, even though he's got two Makos over there, slams him up against the wall. Then finally, Silic's like, well, enemy of my enemy is my friend. We've got a shared agenda. And as much as you and I might not like each other, I hate the Necro thugs even more. So why don't you let me help you blow this place up?
they have a conversation with Vosk again. Vosk's like, will you accept my offer after the space-time machine blows up, right? Like
Space time machine blew up.
Vosk's time portal doesn't
Oh
work the
yeah,
first
yeah,
time they
yeah,
test
yeah.
it. He's like, hey, how about that, deal? By the way, I think maybe someone might have stolen something from down here from your time period. Archer turns him down. Now Vosk is like, well, logically, then I should just shoot you, and busts out a big rooftop plasma cannon and starts taking pot shots at Enterprise in orbit. And rocks it hard enough that it has to back off and has lost some systems.
Most
And
notably the targeting systems.
this leaves Enterprise in a position where, like, okay, we got to regroup. We probably got to go down there and turn off the shields around this thing while we get our targeting sensors fixed so that we can make a Death Star trench run and blow this thing up, because that's apparently the way we're solving this problem.
Taking it out
So
of the Janeway school of fixing temporal anomalies. Shoot it with a phaser.
So sure enough, it's time to put together another Mass Effect team. We're going to head down there and we're going to see about fixing this problem once and for all. We're going to get Trip. We're going to blow up the time portal. We're going to get home. We're wrapping it up, boys. We're getting it done.
We bought some download content for Silic so he doesn't have to sit in 7 hours of makeup for the rest of the series. He gets to...
He gets a new skin, it just being his actual face. Thank God.
He's
Although
got some...
he's such a good, like, at being smarmy, though. I kind of liked him in his normal face.
I really like Silic. I wish there has been more of Silic throughout the Star Trek. I think he is a good, persistent adversary.
Should have been there in season 3. You should have played a role in season 3. Just not using him was a mistake.
Yes. Taunting, seeing him in passing, maybe even like shitty voicemails or something.
And occasionally helping in a mysterious way, no one knows why,
Seeming like also confused by the involvement of the sphere builders. Where's Vosk at? Because he's got some other roles I was surprised to see him in. Him not in makeup is a little shocking to see. It's always weird to see, like, the alien... God damn it, where's he at? Hold on here.
Are you trying to find Silic or something?
Yeah. John Fleck. That's why he likes calling Archer John so much. Gets to use his own name. Oh, right. He's the guy, the used car salesman that sells Tom Paris his haunted shuttlecraft in Alice.
Oh, that's right. Abaddon. The name for the devil. It's a bit of a... We call those red flags. So, with this in mind, of course, the Mass Effect team is going to be Archer and Silic and the other guest star, Alicia Travers, who went back to Earth earlier, and then the surviving of the Goomba twins immediately smells out that she's hiding something, and there's a bunch of bullshit going on with this Archer guy, and just convinces her to fucking give up the story. But thankfully, he's super cool, and he's willing to participate in this adventure as well. So the plan is that Carmine and the rest of the gangsters are going to essentially just roll up on the Germans and start a fight with them at standoff range with small arms.
We got pistols. They got rifles, grenades, maybe machine guns. It's a heavily fortified checkpoint.
Thankfully, the normal movie logic applies. Germans can't shoot, and all the Americans can. Like, the Germans are shooting machine guns at the Americans and missing, and like Carmine will just get his 1911 out and just like pop 3 dudes in a row, like shoot them in the neck and shit. Like, it's like the Doom Slayers versus a bunch of chuds, like, it's just impossible. And while they are distracting the Germans by essentially spawn camping them for apparently hours, because the attack starts at night and ends in the morning, just sitting there, they just keep respawning and they just keep hosing them down and grabbing the ammunition and coming back and just getting ready to hit them again when they pop back in.
Also in the background, unnamed Nazi general has come to Vosk with orders directly from Hitler saying, "Give us the badass weapons we know you have. We're done fucking around." Implement, assuming we're going to kill you if you guys fool around with us anymore.
And
So
Vasquez just gonna just pull the trigger on like, okay, let's get the fuck out of here then. We gotta be done with these fools. So they are having the big fight. Silic and Archer sneak in. Silic does another discount putty boy move to get an event and open a door. They're having some conversations where like you find out Silic, his people got effed with by Vosk's people, but the temporal agents prevented it. But Silic still doesn't like the temporal agents. Again, probably because Archer has convinced him not to like them, because Archer doesn't like them either.
yeah, that was a real interesting line of dialogue there. Like, I took it just to mean that the Suluban, and specifically the the Cabal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or just could hold a grudge really well. But Archer twisting their arm and being like, no, fuck those guys. Because that's powerful. Like, hey, someone tried to like Terminator John Connor us, right? Someone went back in time to kill our mom. And these dudes stopped it. And I'm still going to fucking straight ice Daniels 2 seasons ago. Archer's like, all right, well, hey, let's keep pushing on this mission. They get to a control panel. Archer hacks it or something because they don't have the special effects budget to blow up the generator.
He successfully gets the shields down. They are trying to effect escape. They get ambushed by a bunch of Germans. Silic pulls a ninja move, gets on the ceiling, drops down, bodies 2 guys. He's triumphant. He's doing the cool guy walk away. And then, of course, he gets get right in the back.
Rewind. Go back to Enterprise. We're going to work together. We've got a shared goal. We're going to go down on this real dangerous mission. I get a pistol. I'm not taking the fucking Mako's assault rifle. You get nothing, which Silic kind of even calls out, like, we're in a gunfight and I don't have a fucking gun. And I think we expected to be in a gunfight. So, like, explain to me what's going on here other than you're clearly setting me up to die.
And then he does. Like,
all of time it hinges on this. The Nazis are winning and undoing your history. Give me a fucking pistol, especially when we're going to be killing people and I can just pick guns up off. There's no reason this guy doesn't have a fucking gun. Not even a space pipe.
I mean, that'd have been too powerful a weapon to give to Silic. He could have changed all of history. Silic has a dramatic death speech where he wanted to die fighting Archer, but he will die pleased that at least he got to die fighting with Archer, and then has his eyes roll back and dramatically dies on the floor.
And
definitely
reverts.
And reverts back to his normal form. And it's a loss. Like, I wish we could have seen this guy for the last season, because it's like he shows back up just to die and barely explains why he's there. But yeah, rest in peace, Silic. You were a good villain.
Jump back to when we first got introduced to these guys in Broken Bow, right? Because they kill. There was the defector. There was like the sympathetic Suluban, which was the chick
the
from
Suluban
Return
lady
of the Living.
that makes out with Archer. Yeah,
fucking hot. Rochelle something. She was the zombie lady from Return of the Living Dead 2. That was a compelling storyline, I thought. Like, interesting split faction. The one with Colonel Grot.
Mm-hmm. That was all season 1 material.
And this is what it all culminates with here, is Silic being happy that he could get shot by Nazis and die in the past.
So that we can never talk about them ever again. Just very underserved, very slapdash, we just need to never talk about Silic, Daniels, or the Temporal Cold War ever again. We've got to move on. So here you go. He's dead.
Well, let's move on. So
they kill him. They kill him, and while his body's still warm, Trip rolls around the corner, thinks Archer is Silic and is going to shoot him, and then literally Archer just steps aside and goes, "No, Silic's actually already dead on the floor. Please don't shoot me."
And I'm alive. I know you thought I was dead. For real this time. This is like the 3rd time within a 72-hour period that appears that I had died, but I am alive. For realsies again.
They get out of the building after Trip has to remind him, "I don't have time to hug you," because the building is going to explode. And meanwhile, As I said, they've been spawn camping the Nazis for hours because it's morning.
Trip did have a chance to listen to Vosk's Destiny speech, which, interestingly enough, he delivers in English to all of his Necro Thug minions instead of Necro Thuggies or whatever their native language is. Hey, we get out, great. Vosk's in the process of trying to boom tube out of there. Enterprise is flying overhead, dog fighting World War I planes, which we can say, all right, it's a close fight because Enterprise doesn't have targeting systems just to zap these guys out. They do the Death Star bombing run on the Nazi factory, photon torpedoing Vosk's base of operations. Now that the shields are down, Vosk's standing in the time stream, disintegrated.
It's again all so fast and so stupid. You're like, really? That's it? That's the ending? Great.
But wait, there's more stupid, because instantly we smash cut to this video game.
Yeah, it's the victory screen. It's the fucking you won arcade mode of Mortal Kombat 2. Yeah. You know,
they start assigning bonus points while counting how many resources you collected and giving you kill counts. It's this hokey ass scene where they appear to be like kind of underwater while time floats by. It's beautiful, isn't it? The timeline reassembling itself, and it's like stock footage from a bunch of fucking U.S. history books.
Card loading screen, and it's so
what it
accurate.
Looks like.
Yeah. Daniels is there. He's been effed up, though his hairline remains tragic. And he's like, "Boy, it's all fixed." And Archer's like, "Fuck you, dude. Everything we got involved with because of you sucked. It sucked big. Go fuck yourself. I don't want to hear about this ever again." And he's like, "Okay, Captain, bye.
It's been a pleasure." I feel like he is unnecessarily hostile with Daniels, which Archer, who is just infinitely forgiving and has a capacity for love of anybody, and Daniels, who has tried to theoretically help him every step of the way, he is just needlessly hostile with this guy. But let's just take a moment here to appreciate that there has been a great and benevolent force jerking Jonathan Archer to and fro in the space-time continuum to right the wrongs of the past. Like, this is 100% a quantum leap.
It is.
This is like the ending of Quantum Leap you never got. You know, they get rid of the bar scene or whatever that last episode had of Quantum Leap, and this is Sam Beckett talking to God or whoever was directing where he quantum leapt to, and congratulations, you win the game. You have fixed history forever.
One last thing happens in the episode that is cool.
No, it's not.
You don't think this is cool?
I think
this giant mulligan from the mistake they made during the end of season 3?
No, because it reminded me of that giant.
But yeah, what I'm referring to, of course, is that they arrive back in the appointed space and time that they're supposed to be. They find out everyone's trying to contact them, and a whole bunch of ships are approaching. Dozens of ships. It's the entirety of Earth Starfleet from the looks of it.
Dozens of vessels, all with warp drive, right there around Earth, which you might remember from season 3, episode 26, where the Xindi Death Star had arrived, and there were 0 ships of any sort anywhere near Earth. So them popping in, which is feasibly like 2 seconds after the Xindi conflict had ended, before they got quantum leaped out of there, for there to be dozens of ships, like, yeah, obviously this looks cool. It's a neat scene, whatever, but it immediately reminds me that I think it was ultimately my choice for the weakest shit award of season 3, that there were no ships in Earth. This would have been a chance to say, like, oh, you know, we're being hailed from Earth and lunar base and this other stuff. They're saying the entire fleet is on its way to the Delphic expanse to reinforce us. Archer come in like, tell them to come home. We saved the day. That's why they weren't out here anyways, ready to help. This all makes sense now. Congratulations, guys. We're home. If I was going to do a cut of this, like remaster the series, I would have taken the end of season 3 and had it jump right to this point right here.
Yep. I think you're right. Fortunately, where we're headed next week, things pick up dramatically. We start to get the things we want. What are we watching?
We're going into season 4, episode 3, Home. In the little picture here in Memory Alpha, I see what looks like probably Vulcan, either that or what was the Sith planet from the game?
From the game?
Yeah, with the shadow of Sith. They got all the fucking statues. What's the Sith homeworld? K something. Keth?
Korriban?
Korriban, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's Korriban as best I can tell. Once Enterprise finally returns to Earth, the weary crew face repercussions from their journeys, both positive and negative. This is Mike Sussman, directed by Alan Croker. So,
yeah, this is definitely where you get to do the big payoff for season 3, right? Of like the emotional journey that everyone's been on. It's very reminiscent of like that episode right after Best of Both Worlds, right?
Where he goes wrestles his brother in the mud.
Yes. So I like this one a lot. I think that's the perfect thing that they should have started the season with.
Yeah, I want to see how they lead into that. Like, oh, we all want to talk about the Xindi crisis. Yes, that's like very last week, though. Like, we're all really shocked and shook by, going back in time to fight the Nazis that had taken over DC. What, John, what are you talking about? Listen, Forrest.
I've seen things. I've done things. By the way, there's a whole planet of human cowboys out in that expanse that you're going to
listen, Forrest. You're over here talking about the Xindi. Like, you're so far behind on the times. You sound like a real hillbilly right now. We want to talk about Nazi necro thugs.
Well, next week we'll not be talking about Nazis or necro thugs. We'll be talking about more Enterprise. Thanks for listening. See you then.